And we are back, folks. This is going to be a spicy episode. Let me guarantee you that. Back with regular guest Ben Leneve. Ben, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. As always, we always talk a little Bitcoin on this channel. But we're also going to talk about something that you're more passionate about than me, which is politics and like the current state of society and whatnot. Are you as excited about this conversation as I am, my friend?
I am pretty excited. I think you managed to pick, the topics that each of us seem to be most passionately drawn towards at in the current point in time. Politics was my first mega political love, but I do have much mega political love for Bitcoin as well. And I know that you and I first connected over politics, so interesting. Maybe this would be a good conversation to wrap up the full circle so far of the last 8 years.
We're already getting deep into the mix here. Let's count us in let's count us in, and before we just go straight into the hot and heavy, let's do the usual here. What block number is it? First of all, for the record, let's count us in here. So currently block height is waiting on my damn internet. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting episode. I would argue, Ben, that we connected not over politics, but we connected over philosophy. That's how we became friends.
Okay. I can't disagree with that, because you definitely had the philosophy just as forefront, or more so than politics, in your in your personal presentation on your business card and all that back in the day.
Cheers to that, my friend. Do you have a chalice to sip from? Beautiful. Yep,
it's a disposable chalice, but yes.
Let's take a simultaneous sip as we get started here.
Cheers.
A simultaneous Satoshi sip on this beautiful Sunday. So this is episode number 14, I believe, if I'm counting correctly. And we are getting started today at block number 805. 079 was just minted right this very moment. It's a beautiful thing, Bitcoin, and it's not such a beautiful thing, politics. And this is where my friend and I, Ben, have gone back and forth. We agree on a lot of things. We disagree on a lot of things. And that's okay, right? And I think a lot of that has been lost in today's world, where people seem to think that we all got to agree on everything, and that's impossible. It's, having diverse opinions and having disagreements brings a lot of value to friendships. That's been my experience.
Right.
So here we are.
And as you mentioned already, philosophically, I think we share an incredible amount in common background, and as far as our influences, earlier in our adult lives. So I think that gives a good foundation for us to understand each other's motives and ways of thinking a little bit, so that even when we do have disagreements, regardless of the topic, we can kind of understand where each other's coming from, and even if it's something passionate, respect that.
I'm with you. What's one thing that you and I have disagreed on consistently? I'm curious, because I think this is the interesting stuff. Like we could all talk about the weather. We could all talk about, the baseball game, but who gives a crap? Like, what really is interesting is points of disagreement, and then also points of agreement. So that's why I want to get into some of the interesting stuff here. Do you have any good examples of things that maybe we haven't agreed upon any good examples? And also, don't put me too much on blast, such that I'm gonna like use, like your Twitter, like.
Oh shoot, I
Let's
won't
not.
do that. I guess I've been beaten into learning my lesson that social media is still a pretty sensitive place, even if Elon Musk bought it and claims that he won't permanently ban people. That apparently was not true. Um, got a little too explicit about how justice should be served in my mind on the topic of the COVID-19. But anyways, I think the overarching you know uh, topic and disagreement in this conversation is that um, I see politics as still something necessary to pay attention to, engage in, and care about to some extent. While I do acknowledge that we live in the clown world and politics is kind of the capstone of the pyramid of the clown world in a lot of ways. So which is why I put the sarcastic SpongeBob meme upper and lowercase letters in my political bin where I usually put Bitcoin bin or just bin. But just to acknowledge that there is an incredible amount of bullshit and time to be wasted and money and resources and attention to be wasted in politics. But I think that there are still things that affect our lives in real ways that are a consequence of politics. And
So what do
so
we
I think,
disagree about? Let's get to that point. Let's get into some let's get into like what. Let's start with disagreement, because I already know, obviously we're friends, so obviously we agree on a lot of stuff, right?
Mhm.
We're both Bitcoiners. We're
Right.
both
That's great.
we're both into like things of philosophical nature, which is kind of how we became friends to begin with. We both read and believe the Bible. Like we have a lot of in common stuff, but oftentimes disagreement is more interesting than agreement. So tell
Right.
me what you think. Like, where do our opinions differ on the very touchy subject of, I guess, politics? Because I literally am interested in politics, and I would say I'm really not interested in politics, because I would argue that politics is in many ways a fool's game. Like, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I stand, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to first kind of say it from your perspective. Like, where do you think that I may disagree with you, and what's interesting about that?
Right. Right. Well, I just believe that, when you get down to yes, there's an incredible amount of bullshit and wasted things, to parse through in politics. But I think if you can part that sea of distraction, of bullcrap, of,
You're like Moses, bro. You're parting the sea of bullshit, leading us to the promised land, baby.
The only person who can part the sea, is the good Lord himself that can perform miracles. I don't know if any human man or woman is capable of parsing the politics all on their own.
All right, but no, in all seriousness, help us part the sea of bullshit, which is politics. Go ahead. I yield the mic.
So, the sea, of bullshit, made up of Republicans, made up of Democrats, a very convenient,
Indeed,
near 50-50.
I like the analogy. It's a great analogy. The sea parts to the left and to the right. The Democrats and the bullshit. The sea of bullshit.
Sometimes the truth might be somewhere in the middle. Sometimes, it might be somewhere else. I think it's always good to start with, understanding the truth in the first place. That way you don't, it's a lot harder to get caught up in all the untruths that are present in both sides of politics. But, I would
argue Bitcoin is what parts the sea.
Bitcoin,
let me just go ahead and throw the first. Let me throw the first punch here and say I think Bitcoin is what effectively actually makes a difference.
Sure. shots fired, but I don't disagree. Actually, I think I think the best thing we can do in politics is, and this goes to what Andy Frisella says oftentimes that I just love. It's my favorite quote of his, from his Real AF podcast. He says, "The ultimate form of rebellion, or personal excellence, is the ultimate form of rebellion," which I love. And he always goes into it. He's like, the government cannot control you if you are financially independent and, financially hard and, unscrewable.
Anti-fragile.
Yes, which Bitcoin, fulfills all of those things. If you are, mentally and physically strong and independent, spiritually, mentally, physically capable of resisting outside force.
Sorry, Ben. You're going to have to say that one more time for the folks in the back because I had a little technical difficulty. So what you said was, Priscilla said, basically governments can't control you or like oppress you if you're anti-fragile. That's where we left off.
Right. Yeah. Personal excellence in your, finance, business, in your
family,
in your person, spirit, mind, body, strength, and fortitude there, having a family, sovereignty and independence there, surrounding yourself intentionally with people who are also anti-fragile, people who share common interest and, want to see each other all advance and prosper. And, I think government kind of tries to distill everything down to, you are a cog in the machine. We're all in this together, all, 400 million of us, all 7 billion of us. And that's the language that, they often use, even though in practice it seems pretty clear that, political actors at the top work for their class and for the elites and for the corporations that fund them, not for the common people.
Okay, so aren't you making the argument that basically the political process is broken? It's mostly bullshit. You're a cog in the machine, and really you should focus on yourself and improving yourself and making yourself less fragile, more independent, using something like Bitcoin.
Yes, I do believe that. And I think that politics and Bitcoin go well together. I think that people would do well in the sense that I like Bitcoin. It's like the insurance policy and simultaneously the vehicle of the future. And we need to be investing in this vehicle. We need to be placing, some of our eggs in this basket. I would argue a lot of our eggs in this basket if you're smart. But I don't give political advice or economic advice.
Yeah, that's something I should circle back, bro. Thank you for reminding me. Not financial advice. And also, like, we're just two dudes live streaming on a Sunday, drinking warm beverages and talking about Bitcoin and politics. These are our views. They're no one else's views. So they're representative of our opinions and no one else's. So just throwing that out there as a disclaimer and a caveat that, like, we're just loosely talking about things of interest, things that we may or may agree or disagree on when it comes to politics and Bitcoin and whatnot. So, so yes, Bitcoin is a tool, right? It is a tool of individual sovereignty, individual liberty, individual financial freedom. It's a very powerful tool. I would argue the most powerful tool on earth to improve your well-being financially and otherwise for yourself and your family. So along the same lines of what you mentioned about becoming anti-fragile, becoming more independent, etc., Bitcoin is that tool. And I would argue that basically politics and the current event of the current thing is basically all a big, huge distraction to make you feel like you're doing something when in fact you're basically doing nothing.
Sure. And that's, I guess, a great jumping off point for me to parse more effectively the bullshit from the from what I believe is, effectual politics that people should be paying attention to. Because yes, I
Okay.
do think there's current narrative, current media hype is always fixated on some intentionally chosen, surely, topic.
Manipulation,
Right. The mainstream media.
propaganda.
Sure. I think there can be organic, viral things on the internet and social media, which is fantastic and which is what makes it, infinitely better than, traditional media, mainstream media, cable news, whatever. But
Mhm.
the cable news still drives the, hype and viral cycle, I'd say 90% of the time at least. And, whether they're fixating on, oh, Trump got arrested, it's always, oh, a submarine blew up. Oh, here's a story that's interesting. And, there's always something being distracted from. There's always something that's much more consequential going on in the background. There's always things that are much more consequential
It's smoke and mirrors.
at your more
It's
local
smoke
level.
and mirrors.
Uh-huh. So,
Do you feel like politics can be more affected locally than, and do you believe that people have more of an effect using localism?
for sure. I think, you can even just look at that as a raw numbers thing. If I try to count myself voting for president, me and the other 150 million people that might go vote for the presidential election, that's my, that's my part of the pool that I'm controlling of the vote is 1 in 150 million. But if I'm talking about,
Yeah.
Voting for my freaking sheriff in my tiny county, it might be me versus, a couple hundred or a couple thousand people that vote. And those, local movements, local policies can more directly affect what's going on in your local community. And, if there's enough of a groundswell or, grassroots
Yeah.
interest in certain issues, then those things get pushed up the chain through the more sovereign local governments and state governments.
Yeah, for sure. And fair points. Those are perfectly fair points. But again, as with anything in life, there's a question of opportunity cost, right? So there's a question of, if I spend my time and energy and resources doing X, well, I could have also been doing Y, Z, or anything else. So there's a huge opportunity cost to always weigh against your actions and decisions. And by participating in activism of any type, your question is, okay, well, I could be doing something else, arguably more productive, like something more economically productive, or what have you. And so I'm interested in, if we agree that a lot that has to do with politics is broken, utterly broken, and disconnected from the local communities in many ways. Well, then at what point, where does and you're saying, well, it actually works to a certain degree, but then it doesn't work to another. The further you get from local politics, by the time it reaches DC, for example, it's completely disconnected from the local communities whom it's meant to represent.
Right. And you can even see it.
So my question is, at what point does it become disconnected?
I think it's a combination of, factors, but, geographically, for instance, when someone is physically removed from the people they're supposed to be representing by hundreds or thousands of miles, all of a sudden, that person's interests and influences are changing. And, time's another one. The longer a person's been in politics, the more likely they are to
Okay.
be affected by the everything around them. The more likely some money has come into things. They're looking at this like a career as opposed to, a
Yeah.
cause. So there's a
So
million ways that can be corrupted, and ultimately, I think the answer is to make the whole process smaller, less important, and more local. And if we can do that,
and
that's
thus
great.
far, to
Get
be
communities
fair,
to force that. That's great too.
yeah, well, I would argue that Bitcoin is greater than politics because it's a technology that basically cannot be defeated. Like, you can not like Bitcoin, you can want to stop it, but I would argue that it's unstoppable. It's basically embedded in the internet. Like, so I think it's far greater than politics. I don't think it's like not a political issue because you got to put the work in, and like it's not a voting system where if for some reason there's some sort of democratic vote on like we don't like Bitcoin. Were you able to get all that, or did I break up?
Repeat the last like two sentences.
We could all vote and say like we don't like Bitcoin, but that wouldn't actually stop Bitcoin because people are still going to be running nodes, and there's still going to be miners online.
Well, I love that. I love that about Bitcoin.
It's an unstoppable force for word. So like I guess if we're looking at things philosophically, and I was going to pull a quote out of Jason Lowry's Soft War about how voting systems can be exploited, but regardless, philosophically speaking, again, we say it's bad to smoke, right? Because most people that smoke have adverse health effects, right?
Right.
You could say the same about getting involved in politics to a certain degree. And I can be playing devil's advocate here. I'm just challenging the narrative of like, oh, it's good to get involved in politics. When in fact, like mostly it's a waste of time. Mostly it's a waste of time. You're mostly not going to change a completely, a system that is corrupt is not going to be uncorrupted through the same system. It's this idea of draining the swamp. That's kind of a common buzz term that's gone around. Like, you don't drain the swamp drains you.
Yeah, I'm confident that that's the case for many people. Maybe.
So where is Trump. It not the case? What I'm saying is like I feel like you're arguing, oh, like smoking is actually good sometimes. And it's like, okay, I agree with you. I like cigars. Like I like cigars. I smoke sometimes. So like I see your point that it can be good, but generally it's a complete waste of time. It's not healthy. Like you would do better to focus on productive things like learning skills, being a better employee, being a better business person, being a better husband, being a better father, being a better member of your community. Because I feel like politics is basically LARPing. It's like it's live action role playing. Oh, I'm doing good because I'm supporting this narrative or that narrative. It's like, why don't you just go and actually sow, like positivity, like in your own actual real life instead of just LARPing in politics.
I totally see your point, and I think the best example of that, and where I would try to parse the difference, is that there's always the team sports aspect. People who passively watch Fox News or MSNBC, and that's just like it's like their sports. They get their dopamine from it. They get their emotional satisfaction or whatever from seeing somebody make an argument that that they want to hear win or something like that. But and I think that that's
Benjamin,
silly.
you're glitching out on me, dude. You're glitching out on me like hologram Joe, bro.
Am I back?
You're back, baby. You're back.
Okay.
So
cool. Yeah, there's the team.
I didn't get any of that.
Okay, there's the team sports. There's the rah-rah. There's the, I could be sitting at home on Sunday drinking beer on my couch, doing nothing, wasting time watching football or watching Fox News and MSNBC. And in a sense, I would say that is, just as consequential for the world, meaning not at all.
I would argue you're better off drinking beer and watching sports than getting involved in politics, because politics is stressful and stress is not good for your health.
Fair enough. I mean, sports could be stressful too if you get over emotionally invested and you're like somebody.
Sure, I guess so. But
but
you do take my point though, right? That politics is stressful, and
yes.
typical. You get my point, right? Like
yes.
And it also kind of makes you not like. I've noticed that when politics comes up with friends, it can be detrimental to a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And
sadly.
Well, yeah, I mean, sadly, yes, but also I'm not arguing that politics isn't important. There are political issues that are certainly important. I'm not ignorant of that, nor am I naive to that fact. But
you're just arguing
again,
it's a waste of time 99% of the time.
The question here is, we can agree on a few things, I hope, right? Your time is limited on this earth, right? How you choose to deploy that time and what you focus on defines your life, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have the very important choice of, what do I focus on with my limited time, energy, and resources? And I would argue that Bitcoin helps you focus that economically and otherwise, because Bitcoin gives you a lower time preference, and it does make you value the future more again, which is an interesting slogan. Value your time in the future again. That sounds like a similar, slogan. But my point is that we really need to ask ourselves the question of, am I wasting my time trying to change things that is just a waste of time? I don't know how else to put it, but
mm-hmm.
I want to go back to your team mentality thing. Basically, as it currently stands, you can say that, for example, in the United States, we have a two-party system, right? Many would argue that we have a one-party system, where basically the blues and the reds have been in the same bed, basically, figuratively and literally, for a very long time. You could very much argue that it's a one-party system.
Yes, you could.
So
I would say that
I think
that's a more healthy and accurate framing to start with, if you're trying to accurately look at anything political.
Okay, and my question is, unless you ascend above this system, is it reasonable to think that obsessing about politics, dwelling on politics, and arguing with everybody about politics is the best use of one's time, when instead you could be productive and work on improving your own life instead of getting involved in politics, which is kind of the business of telling other people how to live their lives? Why not just live your best life, as an example, instead of getting involved in this busybody business of telling other people what they should do through the government?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
even
fair.
If you're fighting on the right side, even if you feel fully like you're justified in your angle as such, do you really think that you're gonna reform? I'm trying to understand how the individual, because it seems to me like the individual sacrifices his or her time and energy into a machine that is not going to be reformed, nor is there any evidence of things actually really being reformed if you zoom out and you look at a kind of a long enough time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you be better just like doing better for yourself?
I think I believe you can do both. Maybe not everyone. I certainly think that politics can be and is stressful for everyone to a degree. Personally, I feel like I get a lot of enjoyment out of it and less stress.
What do you enjoy about it? What do you enjoy about it? Like the memes, like I like. There's some funny political memes for sure.
Memes are fantastic, of course, but I feel like, especially in the last 3 years, like the world has and the country has seen that that we are under a uniparty system essentially, and it's a lot more interesting to me to engage people that understand that, which I feel like is most people now. So I think there's a lot of good political conversations that can be had.
Sorry, folks.
Not
Testing,
discussing.
Ben.
Yes, check.
Ben, I'm gonna have to press pause for a second. I lost you for a second. Let me ask you because I didn't get it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Testing. Earth to Ben. Houston, we have a problem.
I'm here.
All right, cool. So feel free to finish your thought, but I also wanted to just reset us. I wanted to reset us with a really simple question, okay?
Sure.
My question is, if you find yourself like a young man or young woman, doesn't matter, someone who has their whole life ahead of them, right? And you said, okay, would it be wise counsel to instruct that person to get heavily involved in politics? Or would that seem like maybe not the best advice?
I would not give that advice to anyone.
What if they're on the right side of like the arguments? Like what if they are, fighting a righteous and just cause, then would that make any difference?
I mean, I would say if somebody is, obsessively passionate themselves, and can't seem to want to direct their energy anywhere else, then I would say, maybe go for it. But here's a bunch of harsh realities that, that you may not have encountered yet. And, do with that what you will. But no, beyond that, I would generally tell any, 18-year-old boy or young man, go to trade school and invest 2/3 of your savings in Bitcoin and get married. That's what I would tell. But
that's not financial advice. That's not financial advice, though. That's just Ben's opinion. That's just Ben's. That's just Ben's tweets.
Right.
I love that, dude. But so that's interesting. That's interesting because then to make it more personal, like, do you feel like that's like because you're becoming? Feel free to share however much or as little as you like, but like you are more interested in becoming more active with your local politics or whatever, such that you're deploying a considerable amount of time and energy on that, beyond just looking at funny memes and sharing it on social media, whatever it is. So, like, do you feel like it's something where you just like you can't not get involved, or like why don't you take your own advice, I guess is my question to follow up on my previous question.
I guess I look at myself slightly differently, but also not really, because I did carve out a qualifier for, if you're this young man that is just obsessed, which I've kind of always been to an extent, with some aspect or element of politics. And
you could take that same obsession, you could take that same focus, and you could direct it towards what I'm arguing is more productive focuses. Like, just food for thought. Like you can take that energy. Anybody can be like obsessed and focused, and you do want like we're interested in different. Like everybody's interested in different things, but directing that focus towards something productive is a major difference. Like in one's trajectory in life, financially and otherwise. And like if one is successful in politics, what does that look like, right? Like being successful in politics is actually like failing at life, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're somebody who, just jumped from, useless bureaucratic position to, peon chairperson position to state rep position to state rep position to blah, blah, blah position as a career, and that's what you just want to do, and you call yourself a public servant, and you collect a paycheck and, go to the parties with everybody, and then you go home and do whatever you want and think about yourself, then you probably have, yes, become the problem and are the problem. And I think that, yes, there's, toxic and horrible elements of politics that tend to corrupt anybody who gets very far. And, I don't know if I want a career in politics, even though I'm choosing a career move in politics right now for the,
doesn't that seem kind of like double talk though, right? Like you're like, I don't think you like, didn't you just like contradict yourself right there?
I think if you look at, I'm participating in politics versus, I completely disregard politics, then sure. But participating in politics, you could be a lawyer that works for a think tank and, raises the alarm, by actually reviewing bills that Congress won't actually read before they vote on them. So you do. And then you raise the alarm.
That sounds so boring. There's nothing that sounds more boring than that.
No, it sounds terrible. I would not do that job, but somebody out there enjoys doing that job. And it could be that, they effectively mobilize people to, call their Congress people and turn down a bill or, get people out of office based on their crappy performance and failure to represent their constituents. So, I think most of the productive political jobs are actually outside of, collecting a check or being a public servant.
All right, so let me ask you.
Productive can also be a different thing. Mining Bitcoin, for instance. We would both agree that that's productive because we're securing the network for the future of money. We're helping create.
It's valuable. It's objectively valuable.
Yes, we're putting value into a network that's going to allow a vehicle for us to escape the oppression of the system we've been under for 100-something years. And that's fantastic. And I think everybody should do that.
Arguably all of human history, actually. I would argue all of human history has been, pretty much especially since, politics really became a thing, right? Politics is it's so distasteful. It's so distasteful, right? And Bitcoin is what I choose to focus my time and energy on because I feel like it's taking the orange pill, freeing you from this disgusting matrix of coercion.
I think everybody should take the pill, and then when everyone does that, I won't have to care about politics because politics will become irrelevant, and it'll be a beautiful day. And I'm going to use my mobile recruiting platform to make sure and promote Bitcoin as well, of course. But I think a comprehensive full court approach to the problem of the tyranny coming at us, whether it's economic, financial control over our money supply, trying to whatever pandemic lockdown, wherever you want to go with it, I think we need to be fighting these things in any and every arena. I think we should be always doubling down our efforts into the most effective, vehicles, which would be
Yeah.
opting out,
Which is Bitcoin.
which is Bitcoin.
Which is Bitcoin and being the best person you can be professionally, physically, spiritually, economically, to be the best, member of the community that you can be for your fellow man. The only way to help other people is to help yourself, I would argue. Ben, I know there's a lot we agree on. There's also a few things we disagree on. We started to touch on those. I wonder if we should make this since you're going more into a political direction, maybe we should make this more of like a frequent show where we like come at things from different angles.
Once a month we could have this be the dynamic or something, and then the other 3 weeks of the month we could pick some more Bitcoin or economic focused topics or something like that. But yeah, this has been a good one. I certainly believe in Bitcoin and believe that Bitcoin is the ultimate, vehicle to get us away from the BS of politics. And please everyone that's watching, please just buy a little bit more Bitcoin. Look up the logistics. It's not that hard to set up a node and run a node. If you want to do some more major investing, buy some miners or call Colby. And let's get away from this politics together. But until you guys do that, I'm so something about me just wants me to go inside the political machine and start cutting everything up with a paring knife. So I'm gonna do my best to do that.
Cringe. Bro, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming through. I appreciate most of what you've said. And
thank you. I'm like that meme where the guy has two buttons to push and he just splits his finger and decides to push them both anyways.
Suit yourself, my friend. Suit yourself. I appreciate you. And yeah, it's been a real one, folks out there. If you're into Bitcoin, if you're into politics, philosophy, sub this channel. I think, Ben, you're going to start doing your own maybe you're going to start doing your own stuff separately from the Sunday Satoshi. That would be cool. I support you with that.
Yeah, I'd like to start a Rumble channel, and first thing I'm going to do is mirror all your content on there. If that's cool, obviously we'll be shouting you out and directing all credit towards you for that. But
it's all good.
Figure that'd be a mutually beneficial thing, and then I might start putting out a little weekly news review or something.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. And I think hashing out these kinds of things is valuable. I just feel strongly, especially because you're one of my best friends. Like, I feel strongly that we shouldn't waste our time. Like, we should focus on those important things that I've already mentioned: family, community, financial freedom, etc. And we got to watch out for each other out here. And politics makes me cringe. I like talking about philosophy, and sometimes there's overlap and stuff. But dude, I think we could definitely talk more about this. Let's wrap it up right here, and we will continue this conversation into the future. I am certain.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate you, bro. I know that your cautions towards me for stepping towards politics once again are come from a place of love, and
I would say this, dude. I would just say this. I would say, dude, you can only really focus on like one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can only really, 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 really commit to like one thing at a time. So if you're going to commit to anything, like personally, I think politics is at like the very bottom of my list. Insofar as like, I just think I can be way more effective in so many other areas where I can actually move the needle and make a difference in real life, in reality, in my life and other people's lives. Whereas politics is kind of a soul sucking business.
Yes. In general, I agree, but I will not digress back into the debate.
Okay, I appreciate that, dude. Thank you for not taking the bait. We'll see you guys next time. Sunday Satoshi, episode 14. We're wrapping it up right here. Bitcoin Ben, political Ben.
Follow me on Instagram, not Twitter.
There you go.
Instagram, not Twitter, at Ben_Leneve. And yeah,
Wonderful.
Not your keys, not your coins. Make sure you learn about Bitcoin as you get involved. Education is the absolute tip of the spear for your
read the
Bitcoin
white paper,
journey.
baby.
Is that what that is behind you?
Yes, sir. That's the whole
Nice.
Bitcoin white. That's the whole Bitcoin white paper framed.
Read
the white paper. Run a node. Hash
the amount of Bitcoin education I've done for myself, I still haven't read the white paper, so that's something.
Right, tonight. Do it tonight. It's 8 pages.
It's 8 pages?
Yep.
Too easy.
Or
Too
thereabouts. Easy. Yeah. So peace out. Peace, love, and Bitcoin. We'll see you guys next time. Adios.
Thanks, Kobe. Thanks, everybody. Happy Sunday. Have a good one.